Hey everybody, it's Jay. I'm back in the shop. Wanted to take a look at something I just picked up off of eBay. I picked up this big number 6 Bedrock 606. I got it pretty cheap, 50 bucks. 50 something bucks, but it's got a cracked handle, it's got a little chip out of it, but otherwise it seems like it's in pretty good shape. Anyway, I'm going to go through and assess it. My favorite workhorse plane in my shop is this 605 I bought probably 10 or 15 years ago off eBay. I think I paid about the same amount for this. I paid about 50 some dollars. It looked almost exactly like that number 6 when I got it. I've flattened the sole. I attempted to flatten the sides. You can sort of see there that I did a little bit of it. I didn't bother to finish all the way. That's going to be enough to get this thing to lay flat if I need to do any shooting with it. It doesn't need to be perfect. I did put a Hawk blade in this one. It came with a really rough blade. It's got the stock chip breaker. Everything else is really nice on this plane actually. This is a very, very solid plane. It didn't look quite like it was gonna be when I first got it, but anyway, I'm gonna show you how I go through from that number 6 to a nice user like this. I am not gonna refurb anything as far as the blade goes on this, although it looks like it's pretty decent. I will use it for something, but I picked up the Veritas set. Here's the chip breaker. Veritas chip breaker and the blade here. I chose the 01. But basically I'm going to go through right now and I'm just going to assess what I've got, make sure it's worth doing something with. First thing I want to do is check the sole flatness. This is a corrugated, pretty nice. It looks almost like somebody tried to flatten it. It's a little hard to tell. If somebody did, it's in pretty good shape. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the there we go. So just retract the blade, and then I'm gonna take my straight edge, which is a little bit corroded, but the edge is nice and still good enough for this. Ooh, man. That looks very flat. Holy cow. This thing really looks like I don't even need to flatten it. Wow, look at that. I don't think I have ever gotten an old plane like this that is that flat. Wow. So much for this video. I think I'm done. I'm kidding. So I'm going to disassemble it. And so this I'm going to clean up quite a bit. It's just really just a little bit dirty, really. I mean, this stuff just comes off and it almost is shiny underneath, so this thing's in really good shape. I'm really happy with that. This I'm obviously throwing away, but it actually looks really good too. It works fine, everything's coming apart. It's almost like it's got a coat of oil or grease on it, like it was kept somewhere just greasy. I have to be careful not to wipe this on my nice clothes. Take off the frog here. This is sort of the hassle part, is frog has some screws and it's sort of all getting in the way of the rear tote, but the tote is cracked and it's moving around, so that's going to be a little bit, hopefully I can just glue that up and everything will be fine. Depends on how much they've used it since it cracked. So that's the headache part there. So, let's do that one come out. Alright. That one's coming. Yeah. A little dirty. Whew. Smells a little weird. Yeah. It looks like somebody used it some, but there's still a groove here that aligns with the groove here. I should be able to... Oh yeah. So that handle looks pretty good. There's a few grooves in the wood there that align with grooves there. Should go right together. I should just be able to throw some epoxy on there, fill it. There's a couple of gaps in there that need to be filled. And I'll probably, maybe I'll put some epoxy on this chip here. But otherwise that rear tote is fine. Alright, good, this comes right out. Sweet. These things can be a pain if they're stuck in there. Nothing's stuck, it's just nasty. Right. Knob's in really good shape. Yeah, look at that. Yuck, yuck, yuck. That frog was really jammed in there with some goopy crud. If you could only smell what that smells like. I don't know what kind of wood they were playing in there, but phew. Ugh. Alright, that was a good buy, I think. We'll find out for sure. Alright, so now I'm gonna just soak this stuff because it's all kind of cruddy. This is Purple Power. Usually I use Simple Green, but I'm out. So I just use the Purple Power. It's more of a, to me anyway, it's more of an automotive cleaner, but it stinks more. But anyway, if I soak this stuff for a couple hours, it won't make a big difference. Just want to get all the, there's like sort of this crusty, dusty stuff that I'll scrub off when it's done. And when I have a camera, I pre-scraped this guy. You can see right in there. There was some just like real crusty stuff that came off, and it was almost like dried chewing gum, and I just kind of took a screwdriver and kind of peeled it off. It was just really thick and nasty. There's still some on there. I'm hoping this will chill it out, but even right down in here, just like really got the consistency of dried gum, and that's the part that stinks. So whatever one thing I here. I can tell, the smell of this is sort of like sort of a piney smell now, so I'm guessing this is just real sappy wood somewhere. Alright, I got the majority of it off. Alright, first thing I'm gonna do is just clean this handle off with some mineral spirits here. Okay. Alright, I have a West System epoxy dispenser, so I've already kind of dispensed and mixed up in some little cups some epoxy. I'm going to carefully put some on here. I'm going to try to really get it back here where I want it to really make a nice glue joint back here. And I don't want it to really get into the hole there, so I'm going to try to carefully kind of go around that and leave a little gap around it. Just drip all over the place. There we go. That should be perfect. Like so. Some glue dripping down the side. I'll just put that there. And that's good. So, just squeeze up and quickly stick it out. Okay. Cheers. Alright, this is wet. It's all decent. So I was worried about with this blue tape, it wasn't going to want to stay on, so I tried to pre-clean it. But the gaps are a little bit bigger than I'd like. I'd like it to just stay where I push it, but it doesn't want to. I'm going to wrap it around the other way too and see if that helps. Alright, so see what happens if we leave that sit overnight. Should wind up being okay. I'm going to go ahead and shoot some WD-40 on that one. Sort of hose it down with WD-40 and set it aside and clean it up in a little bit. All the parts that I'm not going to throw in the rust thing, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to let the WD-40 kind of soak and should displace the water off of it, and the water should evaporate. WD-40 should be what's left. There we go. All right. Alright, all the parts have looked really good coming out of the tank here. Do one last bit on the main body. Clean this. What the frog needs is I'll rub this on some real light sandpaper just to get any of this corrosion off of it. And make sure that surface is flat. It looks like somebody's already done it, so it's probably flat. I'll do the same to this surface as best I can. So I'm just going to see about not using rust remover and just using some, this is 600 grit sandpaper. Well, there you have it. Cleaning all the corrugations on a number 6 pretty much wipes out a wheel. Alright, all of them are pretty clean. I think I'm going to go ahead and use the rust remover though, because this just takes too much time. Rust remover, I'll leave it overnight and it'll be done. Alright, it's rust time. I decided I would go ahead and try to do this, the frog as well. This screw's a little rusty. This pin back here is a little rusty. There's a little bit of rust down in here. I may have to set it in like this because I'm not sure I quite have enough to cover this whole thing, but we'll see what happens. Start off trying to do it that way. I'll just put all these other bits and pieces in here. And I am all out of any kind of rust remover, so I will just use some Coke. A little bit of plain old Coca-Cola. Makes a great rust remover. This is the only bottle I have, so there's not enough to cover everything. I'm kinda just hosed. Woo! Come on, cover that. Yeah. Alright, pretty good there. That's pretty much what I needed. You can see it's starting to work already. Alright, it's been in the Coke about 24 hours. I could probably stand to do another coat, but I don't have another one. Oh yeah, now it's clean. Super clean screw, all set, ready to go. And here's everything, just get all this junk out of the way. Here's all of it, all cleaned up, ready to roll. Didn't do anything really with these blades, but here's all the parts. Alright, so the next step I need to do here is I'm gonna flatten some stuff. Get this camera repositioned. That is my big piece of glass that I use for flattening. It's got a bunch of different sharpening grits on it right now. I'm gonna peel all that off, and I'm gonna put on some sort of heavier duty stuff. For the longer plane soles, I buy a belt sander belt. This one happens to be a 120 grit. And for that I use the 3M77. This stuff, Super 77. There we go, perfect. I put the plane all back together and pulled the blade in so it doesn't stay, but it's good to have the tension on the plane everywhere. And then the next thing I do is I'll draw on it with a Sharpie. What I'm going to do is just draw some sort of lines going across it. Alright, let's see what happens. Now, using it like a plane, hand plane, sometimes you actually put weird pressures on the sole. So I like to actually just hold the plane down and put it back and forth. Problem with actually doing this and not just living with it is I start to try to achieve perfection. And you can see up in here, the front has actually got a sort of, maybe it goes up a little and has a little hollow. It's not really going to affect it for the length of work this is going to do. Back here there's a little high spot on the back. That's not going to affect much. That's just going to make the effective length of this plane a little shorter. But I think I'll just keep grinding and see how much of that I can get, how thin I can get that hollow. That's not ideal to have a missing spot right in front of the blade, but I don't think I'm going to be doing super fine work with this giant plane, so probably just fine. So I've been going at this for a little while. And I just think this, I bought this Diablo belt and I don't think it lasts at all. I've done several of these things with sanding belts before and I've still felt resistance after an hour by just doing what I did there, kind of blowing them off and every now and then. And this one just seemed to wear out and have no resistance after 10 minutes. So essentially the sole is flat from corner to corner here. There's a piece that runs down the side here, which is fine, but it only runs up. The center of this is dished a bit right at the mouth on the front, and then a piece runs up here that's nice and flat. But up in here and all the way down to the center is the problem area, and it's not bad. I think since the last time I've been in the shop messing with this number 6, it's been about a few months. Overall, I've been dinking around with this thing for about 6 months. I spent a little more time on the sole. I got another piece of sandpaper because the cheap sander belt that I used just wore out right away. So it's a lot better. It's got a few spots on it. I don't know if you can see that in this view, but up in here there's a sort of low area, and there's a bit of a low spot that runs right up through there. I don't think any of it's going to really affect there's enough on the edge here where the low spot runs up that way. There's enough meat there that it's going to work fine. Really, you need purchase on the plane. You need it to sit flat. There's just a tiny bit right in front of the blade, otherwise the blade's completely surrounded by good flat steel. That's not going to make much of a difference on a plane that cuts as rough as a number 6 usually cuts. You're usually not doing smoothing with it, so having this little tiny dip there isn't going to really affect this thing. I did some other cleanup on it. I kind of cleaned the sides a little bit. I took my Dremel and I ground this little nick that was in it to just make it nice and smooth so it won't catch on anything or cut anything. Otherwise, I want to talk about the blades. So you can see this number 5 blade has somebody nicked it with a grinder when they were doing some work on this blade and went zing down there. And it has a real deep scratch. You can see this shiny part. I use this as a glue scraper, so most of this junk you're seeing on here is actually just glue residue. I sharpened this thing up and it's just full of glue residue right now. So when I bought this plane and I really took a close look at this blade, at the blade that came with it, I thought this one had the similar problem. You can see here I've tried to flatten the blade. I just took it, ran it along some, I think about 400 grit sandpaper, nice and flat along the front, and tried to get it to, and if I do this, you can see there's some deep scratches right in here. And when I initially looked at this blade, I thought, uh-oh, it looks a lot like this one. So I decided I was going to buy a brand new Veritas blade, and you can see I ran that over sandpaper for like 30 seconds, maybe less, and it's just perfect. This one has a lot of, I'm hoping you can see that, a lot of corrosion down in there. It's right along the edge. I think I've cleaned it right up to the edge except for this one little piece right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to prep this blade in this tip breaker and see if it works okay, because I can always use this new blade in another plane. So sharpen both blades for this thing. Let's see how it works. Extend this blade. This is the Veritas blade. Yeah, start to get there. Just a little more. we go. Just shaving from that. Just working really smooth. Nice sound. Sweet. Alright. Now let's see how the original blade works. Mouth is open really wide because that other blade is so much thicker than this one. Oh, that's not good. What's going on? Not that dull. What did I do? Let me take a look. Let me see. Just have the blade out past the chip breaker. Just not tighten that enough. That feels a little better. Alright. Nice. Alright. Good stuff. Works about the same. Not surprisingly. Two nice sharp blades. So, that's the number 6 project. This thing took me about probably 6 hours total, over the better part of a year before I did the whole thing. It's done now. It's working great. It'll be part of my, be throwing it in my drawer. It'll be part of the deal, part of what I use. And it's a nice project. It's a nice plane. It works great, as I expected. And you know, putting it on this piece of wood and moving it around, as I expected, none of these little issues on the bottom that showed up make any difference. I was playing around with it. It's perfectly stable on any piece of wood. Very nice plane. Don't really need it. But why do you, you're not going to only own planes you need. Come on. Anyway, thanks for watching.